everyone, I'm Allison Smith. We are so happy to have you here with us from the Energycast studios in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Let's take a look at April's top stories. Assistant Secretary Tim Walsh wrapped up his first trip to Oak Ridge. He visited several sites on the reservation, seeing our cleanup efforts up close. Here are his thoughts on Oak Ridge and his vision for the future. And we have hit the halfway mark in the U-233 Processing Campaign. The team behind this cleanup project at ORNL is making incredible progress. Stay tuned as we break down the numbers. Plus, the AMSE bus tour is rolling again. It takes visitors right in the middle of history and today's innovation. And a little later, we'll reveal the newest stop added this season. If you're interested in stories like these that take you inside Oak Ridge, give this video a like and hit subscribe so you never miss an update. Now on to our top story. From storage to disposal, crews reached the halfway point in the Uranium-233 Processing Campaign. It's EM's top cleanup priority at ORNL. The team behind it is keeping up a fast pace.
OREM recently hit a major milestone. Contractor Isotek reached the halfway point in its Uranium-233 Processing Campaign.
We've chipped away canister by canister, processing material and shipping it out in this 21300 cask, and we've reached the halfway point.
Since work began in 2019, the team has consistently beat annual processing goals.
They're dedicated, they have grit, they don't give up. When things get hard or equipment breaks down, they just put on their troubleshooting hats and figure out a way to get over the hump and keep going.
So far, they've disposed of nearly 650,000 pounds of solidified U-233 waste. And that work matters.
It is a safety risk and a security risk, and the government spends a lot of money keeping it safe and secure. So the sooner we can get this material processed and shipped out, the better it is for the government, the better it is for Oak Ridge National Lab.
To get it ready for shipment, the material has to be processed into a stable form, and that's not simple. U-233 comes in different forms, so each one requires a different approach.
Using different tooling, using different strengths of acids, and then just kind of doing a little R&D on the side to get through some of the tougher material.
The work has been done in two phases. First, a direct disposition campaign was completed in 2017, which removed about half the inventory. Then, the current processing campaign, which began in 2019. It started with lower dose material in glove boxes before moving to higher dose material in hot cells in 2022. Together, 75% of the total U-233 inventory at ORNL has been dispositioned.
Done it safely without, injuring anybody, without violating any of the requirements, and keeping our doses on site as low as possible.
U-233 was created in the 1950s as a potential nuclear fuel, but alternatives proved to be a better option. Instead, it was shipped from facilities across the country to Oak Ridge for storage. Now, it's serving a very different purpose.
The side gig, which is the extraction of thorium-229, which is being used as source material for new cancer treatments in targeted alpha therapy. So every time we process uranium-233, we're extracting thorium and providing that to a commercial entity who's giving it to the pharmaceutical industry.
So while this work helps eliminate a legacy nuclear risk, it's also helping power the next generation of cancer treatments. The processing campaign is expected to continue through 2030.
Crews at Y-12 are making progress on one of the site's most challenging cleanup projects. They're working ahead of schedule and avoiding millions in costs as they prepare Alpha 4 for demolition. The massive facility once supported the Manhattan Project and Cold War operations. Now, crews are in the second phase of cleanup, known as sanitization. That means removing hazards and classified equipment to prepare for full deactivation. And so far, they're ahead of schedule. They've already sorted and prepared all 447 legacy containers for disposal.
What I like to say about Y12 is that we have some of the best workers. They're our A-team. They've worked with mercury, they've worked with asbestos, they've worked with all the contaminants that we're seeing in this building. And you give them a job and they're going to complete it.
New tools and techniques are also speeding up the work. A drum crusher is replacing manual cutting to reduce the size of old drums for disposal, making the process safer and more efficient. At the same time, teams have reduced the number of items that need to be declassified. These solutions have cut nearly 2 years off the project timeline and saved $16.3 million. An exciting progress is happening down the road at Y12. Teams are actively clearing debris from the Alpha 2 footprint. Earlier this year, we celebrated a big achievement by finishing the building demolition ahead of schedule. Local media recently visited the site to witness the transformation firsthand, capturing the incredible changes. It was a full-circle moment for everyone involved after seeing last summer's progress. Debris removal is expected to be completed this summer. Oak Ridge is addressing an old scrapyard to clear the way for future industrial use on the land. OREM and UCOR are moving forward on a cleanup project at the White Wing Scrapyard. The crews have completed characterization and they're currently felling trees to support subsurface cleanup. The area was used from the 1940s to the 1960s to store scrap and equipment from across the Oak Ridge Reservation, including the former K-25 site, Y12, and ORNL.
To be able to know what type of contamination you have out there and what kind of cleanup is necessary, you have to go and do characterization. So for this area, there was not a lot of documentation available of the historic uses other than they stored scrap and equipment and material here. We said, oh, okay, well, we need to get a good idea of what we're looking at so we know the next step forward.
The field characterization provided the data crews needed before they began tree clearing. So far, teams have cleared about 20 of the site's 39 acres, with tree removal expected to be finished this summer.
We're getting it done, and we're getting it done safely, ahead of schedule, and trying to really make this a noteworthy project for the department and then for future companies that are moving in as part of the nuclear renaissance.
Once tree felling is complete, crews will shift their focus to removing remaining debris and hazards so the land can be reused. The scrapyard sits next to a planned multi-billion-dollar uranium enrichment facility and near the East Tennessee Technology Park, which has already attracted billions in private investment and is expected to create about 2,500 jobs. We are very excited to welcome Assistant Secretary Tim Walsh for a cleanup conversation. So first, we just want to say, welcome to Oak Ridge. We're happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. And it's such an honor to be here.
We know this is your first visit to the site, so we do want to hear just your initial impressions these last few days as you were touring and you were seeing some of the work happening on the ground.
Yeah, it's really remarkable to see exactly what was here before, like the K-25 gaseous diffusion plant that's now leveled, and to see the nuclear renaissance really unfolding right there with companies like TRISO-X under construction, and Orano soon is going to be under construction, and Kairos, and really it's going to be the epicenter for the nuclear renaissance, and it's really the blueprint for future sites.
Well, and I do want to talk because I know you visited the different campuses, so including Y12 and ORNL. So let's start with Y12. What were your impressions there, and how did you see the cleanup that we're doing having an impact in helping them with their mission?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Y12 was fascinating to see. Fact that it's pretty vintage. Yet it's still in use today, and they continue to modernize inside of the building. But really the opportunity for us is to do some pretty complex demolition, decontamination, demolition, and removal to clear space for new facilities so Y-12 can continue its national security mission, which is super critical at this point of our history.
Well, and then I'll pose the same question, your thoughts on the cleanup efforts happening over at ORNL too, at the lab, which is nice campus over there.
Yeah, exactly, at ORNL. I mean, same exact thing. I mean, it was where one of our first nuclear reactors were, the graphite reactor, so being able to see that, built in 1942, and then really adjacent to that is where we're taking U-233, I think it's the nation's or the world's largest stockpile of it, and then reprocessing that into really critical cancer cures. So, you know, you can think of it as cleanup to cures that's happening right there. But then beyond that is taking down a lot of the older buildings and again, making new space for new opportunities for the Office of Science.
How do you envision reindustrialization moving forward within EM?
Yeah, I think it's always been a critical point, you know, dating all the way back to the Atomic Energy Commission Act, and then when DOE was actually formed, the Hall Amendment that basically as we were winding down our DOE missions on these sites was to create new economic development opportunities for the surrounding communities for good American jobs. And you know, we're finally at that point today where we're doing that with bringing back new manufacturing. But everything starts with energy, and where there's energy, there's prosperity. And you know, DOE is really leading the effort under the Trump administration to unlock all the potentials of our DOE sites for new energy generation, new grid upgrades. We had the existing right-of-ways that went in there to enable AI data centers and other advanced manufacturing to happen on those sites.
Well, and it takes a village to pull all of this off, right? So how important is it to acknowledge the workforce and the pace that they're moving at and the successes that we've seen?
Yeah, that's a great question, because none of this happens with hardworking Americans. And that's what's really exciting, is that I think we're going to see the rebuilding of America's middle class, because these are all good paying, whether they're construction jobs or data center jobs or power plant jobs, electricians, that it's going to take to do all of this. It's happening right here in the heartland of America.
Well, final question for you. You're about, what, 6 months into this new role,
Yeah,
right?
Working, not quite.
Yeah, close to it.
Yeah.
Working in government, coming from the private sector previously. So how do you like it? How are things going? And where do you see EM going?
Yeah, you know, I am really enjoying my role here. I had no idea a year ago what I was stepping into, but since I've been on board, I dove in, saw the opportunities. It's amazing the skilled workforce that we have, the partner contractors that we have, and the DOE federal employees. I mean, we're all pulling together, as you said. It takes a village, and it's fun to see this collaboration that's happening.
Thank you so much for joining us, Assistant Secretary.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
BWXT has opened a new facility designed to rebuild America's uranium enrichment capabilities. The company launched its Centrifuge manufacturing development facility at the Horizon Center, once again putting former DOE land to use. It's a key part of a $1.5 billion contract with NNSA aimed at securing enriched uranium for defense needs. The timeline was fast. Crews broke ground last June and had the facility up and running in just 7 months. Inside, teams are designing, building, and testing advanced gas centrifuges.
So we have a very focused niche in the whole nuclear cycle, right? And it focuses primarily on defense fuels. So BWXT's largest mission is supporting naval reactors. So this fits right into that. That's why we have such an invested stake in its success. This enrichment technology will be used to ultimately make the uranium that we need to make the Navy nuclear fuel.
The centrifuges will be built and tested here in Oak Ridge before heading to BWXT's Irwin plant for production. And this is just the start. Plans are already in place to expand in Oak Ridge. with the new manufacturing facility expected next door. More than 600 acres in Oak Ridge are in new hands, clearing the way for a multi-billion-dollar development known as Project Ike. The Oak Ridge Industrial Development Board has transferred 624 acres to Orano USA. It's the next step toward the development of Project Ike, a proposed $5 billion uranium enrichment facility. State and local officials, along with company leaders and community members, gathered to mark the moment with the formal signing. This closely follows the largest land transfer to date. OREM recently transferred the land to the board as part of a broader effort to return former federal sites to the community for economic reuse.
So these thousands of acres have been remediated, and so they're now being put back into productive use. And it will be productive use in a commercial sense, so that Orano pays property taxes. What's produced here will produce taxes, and so the county, the city benefit from that in terms of our schools, our roads, and jobs for our citizens.
The same day as the signing, Orano announced the completion of its license application for Project Ike, now ready for NRC acceptance review. Once the front door to the K-25 site, Portal 4 is now reopening as a welcome center for a growing atomic history campus. Portal 4 served as the main access point to the area starting in 1954, but fell into disrepair once the site closed in the 1980s. The newly renovated portal is now the main entry point for visitors traveling to the K-25 History Center and the K-25 Interpretive Center. The space was transformed by the Community Reuse Organization of East Tennessee. There's new exhibits, a museum store, a coffee shop, and space for food trucks. The portal now welcomes a new generation to the site and opens the door to experience Oak Ridge's history. The public bus tour is back. You can join the American Museum of Science and Energy for an up-close look at Oak Ridge's historic sites and learn about the important work that continues today. We scored a ticket for the very first tour of the season to give you a sneak peek at a new stop on the tour.
The tour this year is unique because we're going to see Oak Ridge National Lab's brand new quantum computer. This is one of the only quantum computers in the southeastern United States, and to be able to have this sort of access to it is unprecedented.
One of the biggest new highlights is a stop inside Oak Ridge National Laboratory. At the Translational Research Capability Facility, visitors learn about computing and material science. And that's just one part of the experience.
On the tour, you're going to go into 3 different locations. One is at the Atomic History Campus at K-25. The next one is the Oak Ridge National Lab, and then the Y-12 New Hope Center. And in between those 3 stops where you're walking around and getting stories and unique information, you have time on the bus where you have these guides telling these incredible stories about this unique history, starting from a city that was really just mud and brand new 200 miles worth of boardwalks in weeks, all the way up into one of the most unprecedented industrial endeavors in the history of the planet.
Again, the tour takes you across the reservation, and guides help bring the story of the secret city to life, from its early days during the Manhattan Project to the world-leading work happening today.
Other folks tend to think of this tour as a great glimpse into the Manhattan Project, but we also get to look into seeing what's next on the horizon. And the fact that you can walk from end to end in the city and see history and innovation taking place side by side is completely rare.
The guided tour leaves from the American Museum of Science and Energy at 9 a.m. and returns at 12:30 p.m. The tour is currently offered on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, with exceptions on federal holidays. Visit AMSE.org to purchase your ticket and find more details about tour guidelines. All right, mark your calendars. SafetyFest Tennessee is back at the end of this month. The week-long event offers more than 100 free classes and demonstrations on a wide range of safety topics. The goal of SafetyFest Tennessee is to make training accessible and help the region be the safest place to live and work. Organizers shared the highlights of some of this year's offerings.
I think just the volume and the quality of our demonstrations this year. We've got everything from TVA's slip trip simulator. KUB brings in their live line demonstration unit. So we've got a little bit of everything this year.
We have an outrageously good panel that's going to be a part of that. It's Powering Progress, the Next Nuclear Era. Right after that, we have our community safety lunch where everybody sits down and eats together. At that same time, the expo kicks off and the demonstrations start. And then right after lunch, we have a second panel that is from Chernobyl to today, and it's all about culture, safety culture, how you maintain it, how you establish it, and how you move forward into the future with it.
A Safety Fest will take place from April 27th through May 1st at the Y12 New Hope Center. And remember, classes are free. Be sure to register in advance as space fills up quickly. For registration details, visit SafetyFestTN.org, or you can scan the QR code you see on your screen. And before we go, be sure to connect with us on our socials. You can follow EM News on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X for updates between episodes. Thank you so much for joining us. New episodes drop the last Wednesday of every month. Until then, you can catch up on past stories or share this one right here on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next month from the Energycast studio in Oak Ridge.